Some of these things that happened to you over the years. So how did it feel having to pick up a pen and relive that entire experience through writing?
I thought it was going to be cathartic because I started the book with a dream. I have this recurring dream of not being able to make it to the chapel. There were so many times at school that I couldn't get to the chapel because there was no water to bathe, or maybe someone has stolen my uniform, or maybe for whatever mischievous reason, I didn't want to go to the chapel. And I still dream about that. And I was thinking that, writing about this was going to help me relive those experiences and, in a way, move on from that dream. But no, I still dream about it. And I hope it's not symbolic of something, of not making it to the chapel. Like, what is this about? But so I thought maybe talking about it, like we're doing here, is maybe one way of addressing, I don't know if that was traumatic, the trauma. Someone recommended that I go for therapy. So maybe this is therapeutic. But sometimes you think that writing about a difficult story is enough to heal from the past of whatever you're writing, but it wasn't my case. I felt like it even implicated me more, so to speak. At least for now. We'll see how it goes after you've bought all these copies. That might relieve me.
One Boy is divided into different episodic chapters, not necessarily in a chronological order, but I think it started with my time as a junior student and then onward to the senior class. So the first chapter is the opening day. No, actually beside the opening day, it was the first chapter is the dream. So I've been having the recurring dream about my time at school, and I started the chapter with a dream that I had while I was writing the book. And the dream is basically regarding me not making it to the chapel for evening prayer, or actually going late, for evening prayer and getting punished, by the rector. So that characterized my time at school and that of, I think, most students, because, it's usually that we struggle with water scarcity and or maybe didn't have the right combination of uniform to wear, or for whatever other mischievous reasons we struggle, to attend certain activities, at school. And then we have opening day. I think the most memorable experience of the opening day for me was when I arrived at the school and contraband was discovered in my bag. Baba, my father, did not know about it. Mama knew because she was the one who put the gari and sugar and kuli in my bag. So I have here, once Cassie was our academic master. Once Cassie discovered the items, he stared straight at Baba as if saying, "So you had the audacity to lie to us." Baba was livid. He stood rooted to the spot, staring at the found items. Then he looked at me as though demanding an explanation in the manner Cassie's accusing eyes were demanding from him. The uncharacteristic and humiliating rage and disappointment in his eyes were palpable. The bag was mine. The guilt, however, was his. Why? Baba asked, as though demonstrating his innocence to Cassie. Why didn't you tell me you had gari and kuli in the bag? I did not answer. I thought the question was rhetorical. Have you and your mother conspired to embarrass me? I stared at the ground to avoid Baba and Cassie's gaze. Mama might have been heavily pregnant and unable to move around swiftly, but she would sooner set herself on fire than let her sons live through a time of 3 months in a boarding house without the essential fuel to fire them up. Eventually, my brother, who was at school at the time, rescued those items because, of course, he wouldn't have allowed Cassie and the other staff to disappear with them, and so he did the needful. And another chapter is the Curtain of Tale. The Curtain of Tale, I think, for some people would be the most emotional of all the chapters and the one that is symbolic of the violence we experience. So this was a ritual to help us, become the proper men of valor who were supposed to be at school, to kind of cut that ties from mollycoddled dispositions that we might have brought from the comfort of our homes into the minor seminary. I'm going to read part of it here. To open the ceremony, one of the seniors, the house captain of Father Hughes, stepped forward, his face ripe with menace and terror. "Today you will be beaten to a stupor," he said through gritted teeth, "and nobody is coming to save you. I mean, nobody. Do you hear me?" "Yes," we nervously chorus. "Say yes, sir." "Yes, sir." "Shebukaway, bastard," he said in Hausa. "Yes, sir." I hurled a litany of curses at him in my mind. As if that was not enough, Odum, another wiry senior who would later become my bed Noah in school for his exploitative taxation, stepped forward to rain down a torrent of invectives on our mothers in Hausa. "Gindim Mamoku, your mothers can't," he threatened, his small eyes burning like glowing fire. "Kunjiniko, did you hear me?" "Yes, sir," we roared back in trembling unison. At that moment, I felt the lethal potency of the Hausa language. It was merciless, far more venomous than English. After the preamble, the house captain of Father Hughes returned and bellowed the command we had all been dreading. "I need the first 2 volunteers to march forward." No one moved. When he repeated the order, something primal took over. We instinctively charged into the ritual arena in a frantic, synchronized rush. The sudden obedience seemed to amuse our torturers. Without warning, the hellish session began. One senior yanked 2 boys from the center, bent them forward so their buttocks pressed together, and with a massive tree branch struck through the narrow space where the imaginary tails met. I could not tell which boy screamed, but his piercing cry ricocheted through every corner of my mind, echoing long after the blow had landed. I eventually escaped this gory, horrendous show of terror because I had a senior then who saved me from it. You will have to read the book to find out how that happened, because it was a ritual that everybody was supposed to pass through. This is the book, One Boy. It's good to actually hold it and feel it. It's a product of 6 years of writing. I think it took me about a month to write the draft, and then of course you need to edit and then find a publisher, and eventually I found the University of Ottawa Press, and it took about 1.5 years from acceptance to publication. Now, a lot of people will ask me, why this image? Usually I don't like explaining it, but I got this from an artist, a PhD student at the Ahmadu Bello University, Noura Garba. Shout out to you, Noura Garba, and thank you very much for this captivating image. In fact, some people even ask me if this is me. Does it look like me? Yeah, so this image captivates me because I think the expression is me. It may not be my portrait, but I think it represents me in so many ways, especially while I was at the school. This was my gaze for the most part. Whenever I was being threatened or oppressed or beaten by a senior, this was how I held my gaze. And the hands on my head, on the head of the boy here, is also a demonstration of helplessness, but also resistance. A lot of the seniors didn't really like this gaze. When you look at a senior in this manner, and that can really trip them off. You will hear things like, "You're eyeing me, you're eyeing me." Like, no, I'm not eyeing you. I go and lie down in my corner just for looking at them in this manner. And because I was also smallish and couldn't really protect myself like some of the more bigger boys, I had my gaze like this, but I also had my tongue, which I had learned to use to cause bullies since I was in primary school, but also because I grew up with two older brothers. So yes, this is it. One boy. One boy is a clarion call while at school when seniors needed someone to sing. They shout out Waniharu, which translates to like some boy, but then one boy kind of stuck. And I think that it represents who we were while at school. I think almost every one of us was a one boy. And some of us also shouted one boy when we became senior students. So there are so many other chapters. There's one about name calling, the art of name calling. I had fun writing that one. The nicknames that we gave each other. There is also one about inspection day and the whole sanitary situation of the school. There is a crisis like no other, which kind of took us outside of the confines of the school to the religious crisis happening in the outside world, but that also affected us in so many ways, and in particular the 2000 Sharia crisis. So I kind of explored what it meant for a religious institution established in a mostly Muslim-dominated area in northern Nigeria. There is a Oliver twist of German rice. Now, German rice, what is that? German rice was a food that the mainstay, I would say, of our meals at SGS. Is a combination of beans and corn. And I think I was always fascinated by German rice. And so when I had my first taste of German rice, of course, I was, disappointed. But later on, I became the Oliver Twist of German rice. There is also a story, behind that. And then there is In the Direction of Love. Of course, the story would be incomplete if I didn't mention some of our escapades with the LGCC girls across the fence. The Fatima girls 2 hours away in Kaduna. There is Newscaster of the Year, Homegoing, Extension, The Gathering, and Tomorrow. Before I call it a day, I think it is worth reading from the last chapter, which is the epilogue of the book, And Tomorrow. Throughout this book, I struggle with the emotions of losing the characters even as I write. I have a dedication page to all the characters who have got their wings and transition to a higher place. But again, while writing, I find myself going back to the dedication page to include a name of a character or two. Then at the end, it actually hits home the character I went back to include his name was my brother, my immediate older brother, who appears in the book as Shomo, whose name is Ezekiel Miangwa. So I'm just going to read this last chapter and what it meant to me at the time when I was finishing the book. And he died suddenly. Shomo, my brother, passed away suddenly while I was completing One Boy. His presence runs through every fiber of the story. He had survived so many brushes with death during the Sharia crisis, the episode with the Ghetto Boys, and through other daring adventures he undertook throughout his life. Though I never told him, and now wish I had, I learned a great deal from Shomo about confidence and vulnerability, lessons that shaped my storytelling. He had so many dreams for his life, so many visions of the path he would take, buoyed by the enormous creativity with which he was blessed. Losing him at this stage shattered me, and yet I find myself surrendering to the truth that life is an inevitable journey, with each phase marked by lessons we never anticipate. I look back and wonder, many of those with whom we began this journey at SJS have become memories now. How many times did I have to return to the dedication page because one of the people named in this book had passed on? Each time it happened, could not help but wonder, did they have the chance to reflect on this part of their lives, to make peace with it, give themselves to a certain experience? I also think of the countless victims situated in unknown corners of the world, buried in both institutional and direct violence, and also victims of the residential schools in Canada, whose stories inspired the writing of One Boy. This book is not a catalogue of pain, loss, and death. It is a window into tomorrow. It is a search for the boys still lurking within me and within others who have walked paths similar to mine as we try to make sense of who we were, who we became, and the endless possibilities of who we might yet become. It is a refusal to allow that boy to be silenced by institutions that claim to shape him. And once we find him, it becomes a commitment not to turn away, but to breathe the light of tomorrow and love into his ears. The search has never been straightforward since leaving SJS. It has been winding and restless, carrying me to the major seminary and beyond. I wandered into unfamiliar territories, embraced ideological differences, cultures I had never known, and stepped into experiences that broke me, reshaped me, and redirected the path I chose in life. The magnitude of that journey is vast enough to fill an entirely different book.